so plain and precious. Finally, the Book of Mormon is the keystone of testimony. Just as the arch crumbles if the keystone is removed, so does all the church stand or fall with the truthfulness of the Book of Mormon. The enemies of the church understand this clearly.
This is not the Church of Latter-day Saints, Joseph Smith. This is the Church of Jesus Christ.
So does all the church stand or fall with the truthfulness of the Book of Mormon.
This is not the Church of Latter-day Saints, Joseph Smith. This is the Church of Jesus Christ.
So does all the church stand or fall with the truthfulness of the Book of Mormon.
One of our brethren some years ago spoke of the payment of tithing as fire insurance. Nonetheless, the word of the Lord is clear that those who do not keep the commandments and observe the laws of God shall be burned at the time of his coming. For that shall be a day of judgment, a day of sifting, a day of separating the good from the evil. I would venture a personal opinion that no event has occurred in all the history of the earth as dreadful as will be the day of the second coming, as fraught with the destructive forces of nature, as consequential for the nations of the earth, as terrible for the wicked, and as wonderful for the righteous.
So does all the church stand or fall with the truthfulness of the Book of Mormon.
This is not the Church of Latter-day Saints, Joseph Smith. This is the Church of Jesus Christ.
The church fall.
This is not the Church of Latter-day Saints, Joseph Smith. This is the Church of Jesus Christ.
Travis Wayne gets home. Was going to go to bed, but I see there's a number of comments. We'll do a comment reply. So, as I said, Travis Wayne Goodsell, born and raised in the Covenant Mormon. Both parents served missions, had church history libraries. And so, as I was given a Book of Mormon and read it as a child, I came across 1 Nephi chapter 1, verse 2, learning of the Jews, language of the Egyptians. So that was kind of cool and exciting. But it wasn't until I would become a preteen that I would see the the library, they had a Pearl of Great Price. And so, yeah, I was able to see the Egyptian facsimiles. And I remember approaching my mom and asking her what the papyra facsimile said. And she gave me the excuse that it's something for higher level learning when I become endowed in the temple, and gave excuses not to give me the answer rather than just saying, I don't know. And so this lack of explanation in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, with my peers who in Southern California were born-again Christians telling me that I'm not allowed to drink coffee. What's coffee? You don't miss what you don't have or have never had. And so I becoming a high school student and playing basketball with a couple of born-again Christians. Well, Peter did. Was it Peter? I think so. Can't remember his name anymore because I just remember our nicknames. We were the Twin Towers or the Oxes, or he was the ox and I was the mule, or something like that for basketball. But regardless, he would tease me about being satanic. And the born-again Christian church used to be on the corner of the Corona High School, right across the street from our Corona Chapel, which we used to go to church there until right before my mission, while I was up at Rick's, the ward boundaries changed and our family would go to the Norco building, which is where I had my farewell. But went to early morning seminary there, and the born-again Christians had toilet papered the ward on occasion. And so it was necessary for me, not being around Mormons, even though there were wards and early morning seminary, I didn't associate with any of the Mormons. Most of them went to Corona High, where I went to Norco High. And so the classes, Wayne Mills, I had a writing class with him once. He sat behind me. But we didn't talk or hang out or anything like that. And so I needed to learn Mormonism, and there just wasn't much of an opportunity other than to go through my parents' library and look for the Ark of the Covenant and look up dragons and other Egyptian stuff. And so that desire to know stuck with me as I went on my mission, read through the whole Bible, highlighted everything that was Second Coming, as I believed it was called, and with the purple highlighter. And came back and married a half Canadian, and she took me to Canada with 3 babies and cheaper education. And so I went to the University of Lethbridge there in Alberta, which at that time was the 5th ranked university in the world. And sure enough, the education I received there just dwarfed all the previous education I had at Rick's and high school and grade school. And it was more on my level, as I was actually being taught how to learn, not just going to class and memorizing the textbook that the teacher would parrot in every class and regurgitate it on a test. This was actual learning stuff, doing actual reports with research, not book reports, which going afterward to the University of Utah, I was like, oh dear God, this so lacks, because that's what it was. I remember being in an ancient history class, and we were told to do a report, and I was all excited because I was going to do some research on the Paleo-Hebrew alphabet vocabulary, because I'd already deciphered Paleo-Hebrew by that time. And the classmate asked me what I was going to do, and I told her, and she like panicked. Oh no, we've got to actually do research? And so a number of the students then learned that I was doing that, and were concerned with the teacher and asking him a whole bunch of questions, and the teacher had to come out, no, you don't need to do any research papers. It's just to find a topic and do a book report type report. You're at a university. It's time to put away your kindergarten learning. But nope. So, yeah, with my education, like I said, I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew. The learning of the Jews, talked about in the Book of Mormon. I got my answer. I wanted to know. Nobody would tell me. I learned how to learn. I did the research myself and made the decipherment. And with that, I would go on to decipher the language of the Egyptians and the learning of the Egyptians, not the learning of the Greeks from the Rosetta Stone. And that's why there are a number of signs in our papyri and our facsimiles that are not listed in any sign list. You probably only know about Gardner, as you can Google search and see the sign list of Sir Alan Gardner's, and go through it and see if you can find every single picture in the facsimiles, every single hieroglyph, and you'll find that there are some missing. And so I, having deciphered Paleo-Hebrew, deciphered real ancient Egyptian. And so, yes, I've completed the translations of those facsimiles and the papyri, and the translation that's on Wikipedia for the Book of Abraham is, and even explaining the Book of Joseph, those are the learning of the Greeks. Just so that you understand, there's a whole ton more of information contained therein, and it can't just be a simple sentence translation for you. I cannot do it in this video. And so I then was able to make discoveries in the Bible, connecting it to the Egyptian documents. And then likewise, going back to my Book of Mormon, went, oh, yep, there, okay, yeah, got it. So when the total solar eclipse on the 21st of August 2017 was announced in 2016, November 4th, Fox 13 News, Utah, I knew what it meant, because that was my field. I knew all about it. I became, through my own research, my own education, my degrees, my publications, I became the foremost anthropologist of the ancient Middle East. And so because I knew that I'm the only one that knows this information, I'm seeing the Book of Mormon getting fulfilled. The prophecies in the learning of the Jews being fulfilled. I knew it was my duty and responsibility to let you know. And unfortunately, ever since I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew, there has been a concerted effort by Mormons and the prophets of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to utterly destroy my life. And when I would tell certain Mormons this, they don't understand. But there were many who would say, no, you can't translate, Travis. Only the president of the church can translate. Sorry, I did. Book of Mormon's true. No. It's no. Only the prophet can translate, and it's his interpretation that is true. And so, yes, I was booted out of the church that same year in 2017 at the end by my bishop in the West Valley City ward, Reed Hammond. Know the name. He threatened me to take down my video about Adam fell that man might be, tying it to the Egyptian documents. And he said, why do you bother to come to church if you're going to go against the prophets? Really? The Book of Mormon is going against the prophets? And you don't see a problem with that? So I never went back to church. I'm not going to be threatened about what I know to be true. But that's the whole thing, is all these years, Mormon after 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 Mormon are threatening me to be silent, to deny the truth that I came to know, not by a spiritual witness if he hadn't figured it out. I produced the results, the fruit of the seed. The Word. Alma chapter 32, starting in verse 28. That's our doctrine. And so it's been sad. Yeah, I can post this tomorrow morning. Great. It's been real sad that not a single Mormon supports me. And it's only a relatively few number that have come to realize that I'm not like other critics, that there is information that they're not getting from critical sources. And the critics, they're popular, so they don't need to know what I know. They think they know it all. They're not experts, they're not educated, they're not degreed, they're not published, they were Mormon once, and they left the church for whatever their reason was. And so, because they got their own thing going, they don't care about anybody else. They don't care to do further research, and they don't know how to do research. All they do is, like they were taught, you read and you do a research paper on what you read. A book report of past Mormons' journal entries and those who lied and plagiarized documents. They have no clue how to determine whether or not somebody is lying to them and whether a document is forged, like a Mark Hoffman document. And so, let's go over the comments. We have Elijah Burgess on my elder Jeffrey R. Holland set apart on deathbed. as acting 12 president and Uchtdorf as acting 12 president. Now, if you're a good Mormon, you've been in the church long enough, from birth to know the traditions and the practices and the procedures and the doctrines, at least as they teach you, even though you don't even bother to figure out why there's contradictions and confusions and unanswered questions. Unanswered prayers. Ooh. Oh, YouTube might not have that song. Garth Brooks is being stubborn. We'll try it. And so his comment was flagged by YouTube, which is rare. Right, Robin? And so I don't see any outright things that there's a couple that could be, but they let Robin go. So it's an ad hominem attack. You see, he says, I tried. Did you? Apparently not. I really tried watching this video to see what is being said. And apparently you don't know Mormonism. And you just killed me with cringe. See, he doesn't understand what I'm talking about. And so to cover up his ignorance, he's using an ad hominem attack on me. You laughed way too much. It's funny. Because if you hadn't caught on, the prophets are going against the Book of Mormon. They're going against Joseph Smith. Even to replace the president of the Quorum of the 12, which I don't know if I mentioned in that one or not, but it's section 107, verse 21. Do we need to go to it? There's going to be rain, and I need to make sure that I go out running right as it starts to rain or right before. Sacrifices I do for you people. You people! Of necessity, there are presidents or presiding officers growing out of or appointed of, or from among those who are ordained to the several offices in these two priesthoods. Church News told us that Nelson, who was unable to attend the funeral, yet somehow was able to go to Holland's house, where Holland is on his deathbed, and yet he made it to the funeral, was able to then set Holland apart as the president of the 12. Now, you do know how to read, right? You do know English grammar. Do you know English comprehension? Do you understand what was said here in canon scripture for the church? And the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints promotes this as the policy and procedure for when the Quorum of the 12, and in this case it was the acting president of the 12 president, dies, needs to be replaced. It's very clear. Nelson can't touch this. It's not supposed to be rank. But it was Brigham Young who changed it to rank. It was Brigham Young who said that the president of the Quorum of the 12 replaces the president of the church. Where is it in Scripture? They're supposed to make a scripture about it. They can't just change it and say, well, this is the way it is, and say that these scriptures are authoritative and is the policy and procedure for the priesthood and succession and etc. Because that's a big contradiction. The practice of the prophets does not correspond with Scripture. And so, the way it's supposed to be done will be completely different. But saying that the church is true, hypothetically, for Ballard to die, the remaining 12, not the presidency, Oakes and Irene are out of this because they're in the presidency. Nelson has to die for them to go back into the 12. And so the remaining 11 were to meet, and technically they should just wait until after the funeral and he's buried in the ground. Nope. Nelson didn't wait. And then they're supposed to vote, appoint. And if you're saying, well, I don't know, Travis, I don't see vote from appoint. Then you have to go back into real church history. In 1838, when the Danites were cooing Joseph Smith's church, framing Joseph Smith for criminal behavior that got Joseph Smith locked up in jail, as the Danites then would go on to threaten other leaders of the church to leave the church or be murdered, and yet left Brigham Young and Heber C. Kimball alone with other Danites in the 12 who were remaining after chasing out those who refused to conform and comply to the Danites. Brigham Young, with the remaining 12, which were at least 7, have to have a majority in order to form a quorum and conduct business. That is 28. A majority may form a quorum when circumstances render it impossible to be otherwise. And then 27, every decision made by either of these quorums must be by the unanimous voice of the same. So Brigham Young, with the remaining 12 that formed a majority, held a vote. And they voted for Brigham Young to be the president. And yet Brigham Young, after Joseph was assassinated, as there were only 2 from his quorum that were there with Joseph and Hiram. Joseph Smith chased out the mob, so it wasn't the mob who murdered them. Maybe it was that avenging, destroying angel, because Joseph Smith didn't practice polygamy. Had wings and a flaming sword, so it must be true. And so that's how Brigham Young knew and understood this and practiced it. And so for any Mormon to claim otherwise is stupid. You don't know your church history. And so the remaining 11 were supposed to vote and have a unanimous decision as to who was to be the new president, acting president of the Quorum of the 12. Because the actual acting president, which shouldn't even be the case because that would be rank. Oakes would not be a ranked apostle. And so it would be the actual president. Ballard would be the actual president and would need to be voted by the remaining 11 to be the new president. This is basic church policy and procedure here, and it's not followed, which means the church is not true. The church is purposely lying and deceiving us. And so this is what Mormons do not understand, is that the church has to be tested against the written word, and especially being told about the Book of Mormon. I went to that conference of Benson's where he says that in the little clip I've been giving you. The church stands or falls on the truthfulness of the Book of Mormon. And unfortunately, the interpretation of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is wrong, and so the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints falls. But Joseph Smith's church, nope, it stands. Because the Book of Mormon, as the keystone, is in the learning of the Jews. This is what Mormons refuse to accept. They are denying reality, denying the truth. And so he's now trying to explain why he doesn't understand me by attacking my character. You laughed way too much, and your face is so close to the camera that it just creeped me out. Really? Is that your excuse? You can't just look away and listen? If I'm really that ugly, scary and creepy? I didn't understand a thing you said. I don't understand the point you were trying to make. Yeah, you're ignorant. And so you make fun of me. You bully me. You try to belittle me. And so yes, YouTube should have flagged this. I don't understand the point you were trying to make. Your laugh is obviously fake. Is it? I thought it was pretty funny. Because your face is so stiff. Really? Well, it's called British humor. I refer you to Monty Python and the Holy Grail, among others. Every time you tried getting to a point, you just laughed and made no sense. It's because you're ignorant about Mormonism. You don't know it, so you don't understand me. And because you're ignorant, you got caught in your ignorance, you are offended and take it out on me to cover up your ignorance. This guy is a dumbass. I bet if I cut out each laugh, your video would not be more than 10 minutes long. Well, there's some of the videos over this topic that could actually only be about 30 seconds. Spit it out, dude. Bleep you. If you're a Mormon, you're the audience. You already know all this stuff, right? You studied, right? You're not a lazy learner and a lax disciple, are you? And you probably don't even know who said that. Also, how does a death within the leadership reveal weakness? Ta-da! People die. Yeah, he knows nothing about Mormonism. And he's not revealing what he may or may not know. He's purposely leaving out his... And he uses psychology. Oh, wow, the big bad bully. Psychology. that's reality. They're in their 80s, 90s, dude, 90s. 90s. There literally is nothing to see there. You have LDS derangement syndrome, dude. I made the list of all the psychological abuses that they've been using over the decades. Do you want me to read them? Because he just put deranged. That needs to be added. Deranged. And so all of these are the exact same thing. The psychologists over the decades have just changed the wording. So yes, impairment, disabled, diseased, illness, retarded, mentally health challenged, psychotic, psychopathic, mental, emotional, behavioral challenged, unstable, malfunction, chemical imbalance, extremist, radical, and deranged. Thank you, Elijah, for the additional psychological abuse by psychologists. Right, John Dehlin? So quick to talk about your ass? I don't think I've ever talked about my ass. I don't even own an ass. And post bleep video of you laughing about a nothing burger. Oh, I wonder what movie that came from. Thought you actually had content to view. Guess not. Yeah, he's just a pathetic person who doesn't know Mormonism. And when an expert comes along, he doesn't understand me. And so instead of wanting to learn and understand more from the over 3.2K videos I have on this channel, nope, he's got to insult me. And so, yeah, since YouTube flagged this originally, I can report him. Bye-bye. Mark Crispin. Russell Ballard is burning in hell. That is the Mormon doctrine on the subject. When you lie and you deny the truth, you deny the Christ, and you commit crimes, which he was caught in a crime right before he died. Yeah, our scriptures are very clear on this subject matter. You go to the afterlife, which is here on this earth in the spirit world, and it's divided between those who are in hell and those who are in paradise. And that's the heaven and hell for Mormonism, but that's the intermediary stage until the final judgment of resurrection and ascension to a kingdom of glory. Which Nelson, or M. Russell Ballard, because he's denying the Christ, he's a son of perdition. And so he has to wait till the very last. And Brigham Young used to have discussions with his apostles about what happens to a son of perdition at their final judgment day. And we're trying to discuss concepts such as the spirit element just shatters back into the original elements so that it's no longer an organized spirit body. That's the kinds of stuff they were talking about. Just so that you know. And then karma, that's a different religion. Is it Hindu or Buddhism or both? I think it's Hinduism. The Hare Krishnas, which were the New Age versions of it. Karma. Buddha's Delight. I should put that one too. Music and lyrics. Hinduism. Oh, wait, nope. It is Buddhism, Hinduism, and Jainism. Each of those three, I talk about karma. It's a key factor in rebirth. I'm a cow. And so it is not Mormon doctrine, not even the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints' doctrine. But understood and approved. And also on M. Russell Ballard takes one for the team. Mark Crispin also says all of the prophets, spelled differently, are still kissing Ballard's ass. Does he have an ass? Is it a jackass or a Jenny ass? Which one? Simply amazing. But yep, yeah, the prophets are purposely covering up the problem because of Brigham Young. And the other guy didn't even know and understand it. Ruth Zeke, brand new doomsday Mormon critic, threatens death to Mormons. And says, you are laughing at a man who obviously has serious mental issues. Yep, mental. On the list. And so Ruth says, not cool to me, as she mentally, psychologically abuses the guy. Talk about your Bayman mode. Not cool, Ruth. You get banned. And Andrew Hart from Historic LDS Church Breaking News, which is over 1.7K now. It's making its way to the top. We can check this. Popular. They took out my About section. Naughty YouTube. Alright, so, yeah, still blowing everybody away. LDS dates for the return to Independence, Missouri, which is not Independence, Missouri, as I've come to find out with the Joseph Smith papers. You do reference the Joseph Smith papers, don't you? Whether you're a critic who does videos about the church, or a Mormon? No? 39 plus K after these 6 years. It's actually 7 years. July 2017. And so yeah, it's working its way on to 7. And then 6.6K, the national divorce from April conference, the pre-April conference video. 4 years ago, the finding of records at Edmond Diamond was hilarious when I saw that. 5.6 from 8 months ago, also a church one, about the name. LDS Church to announce millennial name change. So I was nice to the church this conference, October. I was a good boy. I retired and then was forced to come back because of Armageddon. LDS Church President Nelson changes temple text, still gets it wrong. 4 years, 4.3K. 4.1K, LDS Church President Nelson destroys family unit with new temple endowment changes. R-rated Mormons, 4 years ago. 3.8K, 5 years ago, President Nelson, new church president. Back when I had the glasses that were causing headaches. 3.6K, 3.1K. LDS Church President, First Presidency announces special all-day meeting. Two months ago for the October conference. Did I not call it? Did I not call it? I called it. That's what Mormons don't get. Is they get all upset when I put out the videos, but then after it all happens and everybody leaves, everybody forgets that I prophesied about it, and sure enough it happened. And so we'll just scroll down to find where 1.7 is. Here we go. It would beat out one of my ancient videos from 7 years ago. The Paleo-Hebrew Alphabet, Part 1, the first and last letters. Which, wow, how I've grown since then. As I've learned about the latter days and the signs in the heavens, because that's what I was cramming once I found out about the total solar eclipse in 2017. Then when I found all three of them and knew they're written by the finger of God on earth, there it is. Yep, there it is. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And so, who is this Muppet? I've told you, when my brother was born, Todd, the fox, who I used to burn the church in reverse, because the church threatened his job. The church was going to fire him. How dare you let your brother do this to us? Go silence his voice and shut him up and put him into the poorhouse. Now that he's in a new apartment. It was earlier this year with the solar eclipse from Samson. Remember? I told you this at the beginning. I know all this stuff. And so, yeah, Samson takes the tails of the foxes and burns them. And so, yeah, there's a solar eclipse over Australia earlier this year. Annular eclipse. Ring of fire. And it was at the tails of the two Pisces fishes, though, not the foxes. Weird, but that's the way it was. And so I'd have to search to see if there was an ancient belief that the Pisces originated as foxes somehow. But that's the author. That's the way he wrote it. And he was writing the date of when it was going to happen. And so, yes, the brother of the great and abominable church was used to burn the church, as the lawyer didn't even bother to respond after I responded. The church had threatened my brother to silence me. And it was very clear he had no case, therefore. You can't go and destroy somebody by confessing that the church ordered you to do it, or they were going to punish you. And so, he had colic when he was born. And so my mom needed me to be babysat. And my dad was going to Berkeley at the time, and so they were poor, and a babysitter that they had had when I was a baby was a smoker, and is likely what caused my allergies to certain things to this day. But and so the TV became my babysitter. And yes, Sesame Street. And so I used to know Sesame Street so well that I used to do impersonations of Ernie and when the Muppet Show was also out, I picked up Kermit the Frog and Animal, but my older age, my larynx is not able to do many of those impersonations, or at least for too long a period of time, especially Animal. It's too harsh on me. But yeah, I used to be able to sing the whole songs of Ernie in Ernie's voice. And so yeah, the Muppets were a great educational tool and gave me a big boost going to kindergarten. It helped me be an excellent A student all the way through my schooling, and thus prepared me for a real education in Canada, where I learned how to learn and become who I am today. And so, yes, unfortunately, though, this is a MAGA abusive term that got through the YouTube scanners to call me a Muppet, as they were all offended that Ernie and Bert are now gay. But that's only because of the new writer that came in, purposely putting his own life onto Ernie and Bert with his gay relationship. Dear God. But yeah, he doesn't know about the doctrine of Mormonism, and so he lashes out by name calling. Bye-bye. You didn't want to come to my videos and channel anyway. So I'm just doing what you should have done rather than showing that you hate. Richard Barrow. Maintaining the big lie of Mormonism. Thank you for showing true prophets of God on your video. Too bad you followed so many other YouTubers to bash the true Church of Jesus Christ. Oops. He did not learn from the clips I put in. And one of the videos, I actually put questions in there, or statements. Do you really not comprehend this? Do you not understand? He just extorted you with a death threat. I don't know if that was in that video or not, but still, you should have still caught on to them when I put them in. Even the one where I resurrected, because I retired, I transferred all my files off the computer, and so I'm doing videos out of retirement now. I'm having to go, I need to have that one, so I need to go find it and put it on the laptop again. So yeah, I put the one where Nelson says this is not the Church of Joseph Smith. And I made it clear by putting in Latter-day Saints, LDS, the Church of Latter-day Saints. And so he didn't say that, but that's what he was saying by saying this is not the Church of Joseph Smith. The Church of Joseph Smith was named the Church of the Latter-day Saints. So that's why I put in LDS Church. Because that's what Nelson is saying. I'm not lying. I'm not manipulating the audio to have him say something he didn't mean or say. He did mean it. He did say it. And Mormons don't get it. They don't see it. They don't go to the Joseph Smith papers. They don't study their scriptures to see the contradictions and go, why is this a contradiction here? What is the truth? Which one is right? Nope. Whatever the prophets say goes. They don't bother to study. They don't bother to learn. They don't bother to know what the truth is. And so he thinks I'm bashing the true church. It's the great and abominable church. I just did that video. And nobody wants to watch it. Book of Mormon prophecy of LDS Church President Russell Marion Nelson. 44 views in 12 hours. Compared to 1.7K for the Black Apostle. Joseph Smith Sr. made a prophecy, guys, and you don't care. You don't care. Bye-bye. And then here, Brent for Bush. Is that a name? Dear God. And so Elder Jeffrey R. Holland, set apart on deathbed. You're a weird one. See? Doesn't know Mormonism. Attacks me with an ad hominem to try to make himself feel better for not knowing Mormonism. This is the patheticness of Mormonism. It's just sad. See, here we have Alan Kuntz maintaining the big lie of Mormonism. He has an emoji of throwing up. Again, he doesn't believe that the church is lying. And so he's attacking me because of his ignorance of Mormonism. This is what I've had to deal with all these years. Hey, Frederick, how you doing? Women are essential. And to finish it off, we have something faith-promoting. You do understand why I'm laughing, right? Because the church will not talk about the bad things they're doing and saying, the lies that they're doing and saying, the crimes that they're doing, because they're not faith promoting. The SEC, again, the church says, well, we didn't tell Mormons or you guys, the SEC, because it's not faith promoting. We didn't want anybody to know. We were covering it up. Amen. And Mormons don't get it. They don't care. That's the sad reality that I've had to deal with, trying to tell you the prophecies are happening. That's why I warn you of the day that shall burn as an oven, and you don't care. I even had a Mormon say, hey, the church requires sacrifice. Jesus requires us to sacrifice. No, he doesn't. Oh my God. And yeah, the church used to have Kool-Aid at the cultural hall events during the week that Nelson did away with. Just because he did away with the Kool-Aid doesn't mean that the Kool-Aid doesn't still exist and that he's drinking it to you, giving it to you to drink. That could be the theme song also. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. So yes, if YouTube is not going to be cooperative with unanswered prayers, we'll have Don't Drink the Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid. Excellent song. I use the version that goes over the news clippings of that whole thing. And it's too bad that YouTube doesn't show the actual title of the link that I put in for you, so that you have no idea what they are unless you hear me say theme song in the description below. But yeah. So Snoop's Spin Lab, he's a subscriber. He said ... our missionaries came by today, and I had asked them if they had watched any of your videos. They're not allowed to. I busted an elder who was watching my videos. Elder, you're not allowed to be watching YouTube. You're only supposed to use it for using the church sites to show investigators or conferences to watch conference or whatever. You're not supposed to use it for social media purposes. I had told them about you earlier this week to check you out. Oh, good for you. You do what they do to you. Here's the Book of Mormon. We'll come back in a week to see how you feel about it. They said, and I quote, Jesus was Jewish. And the Book of Mormon confirms that. So, one, he's been listening, so he understands and knows. That's why he put it in here. But for the rest of you, you may or may not know. Those of you who are listening probably do know. Those who don't know were already offended, put a hate comment, and left. Jesus does not exist. Jesus did not become real in the Roman period time in those Gospels, which were Jewish records in the learning of the Jews about the Jewish Christ, not a name Jesus. You got to understand the learning of the Jews. And so what happened is that they became literal history with Roman Emperor Constantine, 325 CE, the Council of Nicaea, the Nicene Creed. And we have Google search. I've even quoted it from you. I've went over it and did a video, 3.2K plus videos, guys. It's in the document itself for all to know the truth. Constantine forced the bishops of the various congregations that all had a different gospel, as it was their scripture for their congregation. And they had a different interpretation of it. They had a different Christ, and they had a different nature and character of the Christ. And so, yes, there were a lot of those who had a character named Jesus, but there were many who didn't have Jesus as their character for their gospel, for their congregation scripture. And so Constantine, to eradicate the Jews and replace them, gathered them all up and said, you're now going to have to give up your religion as we're going to create one. A new religion. All your religions are false. We're now creating the one true religion under Constantine. And they would not get funding from Rome if they refused to go. And there was one who was sort of bullied out and then was anathematized in the creed. Excommunicated. The Arians. Not the modern day version of Arians, but Marcion also. And so new religion created. All the previous religions done away with. All the ancient religions of Rome, Greece, Persia, Babylon, Egypt, gone. They're now heresy with a new religion now that is brand new created. And so they had a Christ, and they named him Jesus. Out of all the other names that they could have named him, they chose Jesus. Isaiah says his name's supposed to be Emmanuel. They said, nope, His name's Jesus. And then turned the literal history scriptures in the literal history, as he then would explain. He died, was crucified, died, buried, and rose and ascended. It even says ascended. Nelson never says Jesus ascended. I keep telling you this. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Jesus never ascends. He wasn't ascended. He didn't ascend. He's only resurrected. Do you not catch on? Who's the one who doesn't ascend? Who, Nelson? Russell Marion? Baby name meaning? Who? Lucifer, guys. Don't put a hate comment because you don't know. Don't understand why I'm laughing. And so the bishops could not agree on the nature and character. Every single one of them had a different nature and character. They didn't want to give it up. They were already giving up their religion. Some of them were giving up the name of their Christ. And now they're being told to give up the nature and character of their Christ. They could not agree, and so Constantine, to settle it, he was hot and he was bothered. It was the summertime. They didn't have air conditioning. He created a brand new word. Homusion. It's right there in the text. And you will see consubstantiation, which means without substance, which means not real, because he made up the word. It does not have any other meaning. It's not composed of any other Greek word. He made it up. And so anybody who tries to claim they know the meaning and it's not real, they're wrong. Anybody who tries to tell you that the Trinity is like an egg, has the three layers, the shell, and then the white part, and then the yellow part, that's Trinity. No, because that's substance. It's consubstantial. Homusion. Not real. Nothing in the physical realm with physical elements describes it. And because it cannot be described physically, we as physical beings with a physical mind cannot even comprehend that we can't even comprehend that it is not real. It is right there in the creed. And Christians still to this day are in denial of the truth, just like Mormons. And so, Jesus was not a Jew. The author of the books that have Jesus as the character was a Jew. And thus, portraying the character Jesus as a Jew for the prophecy of the latter days, but it is not meant to be literal. It's not literal history. That was what Constantine's Creed of Nicaea created. And so, yes, that means the Book of Mormon, in the learning of the Jews, is not about Christian Constantine Jesus, who was a Jew, confirming it. So yes, you got little kids going out on their missions who don't know Mormonism. They're little kids. And they're thinking they know the Book of Mormon. Oh, it's the restoration of the gospel, Nelson says. And they believe it. They've never read the ending of the Book of Mormon. What is the ending of the Book of Mormon? What happens in the end of the Book of Mormon? Anybody ever read it to find out? Everybody lived happily ever after because the gospel was restored? It is so sad. Mormons, you really are sad. Pathetic. You attack because you don't know and you don't even bother to know. You claim to read and you obviously haven't. You memorize, but you have no clue what you're saying. And he continues, they were also quoted as saying, you shouldn't be watching or listening to internet anti-Mormon people. Yes, I am anti-Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints because the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and Mormons are anti-me, anti-Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon in the learning of the Jews. This is what I see in our bigger culture now, especially with the Armageddon War. You have pro-Palestinians in denial of Hamas, blaming Israel, calling Israel anti-Palestinian, when it was Hamas, supported by Palestine, Gaza, all of Islam, to attack Israel. But Israel will not tell you the truth. They purposely lie and gaslight us and get physically violent now to demand we accept that Israel must be exterminated. And so, yeah, these little missionaries were telling Snoop Spin Lab that I am the other. I am an anti-Mormon. That Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon cannot be the learning of the Jews. I am an anti-Mormon for believing so. This is sad and pathetic. That people who don't know anything about Mormonism are this cruel and vicious and ignorant and violent, because a modern interpretation of anti is violently opposed. Mormons are claiming that I am violently opposed to them and their religious freedom to lie and deceive everybody, when it's them who are the violent ones, as I've been going over with you. YouTube only flagged one of them. Just pray about your Book of Mormon when you read it, and God will reveal the truth to you. James. Faith without works is dead. Oops, wrong passage of James. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God. They purposely don't read verse 19. They're talking about Joseph Smith's first vision. They said Jesus. It doesn't say Jesus in the text. It says Jesus for the name of the church. But then you got to go to the Joseph Smith papers and go, uh-oh. Joseph Smith got replaced by Willard Richards. Who? What quorum was he in again? Who was with Joseph and Hiram when they were assassinated again? And as Joseph Smith chased out the mob, who were the only two left in the room with Joseph and Hiram when they were assassinated in the room? The mob was chased out. And I went over with you that Alma chapter 32, starting in verse 28. That's the correct interpretation of James. Ask of God. Moroni chapter 10, verses 3 through 5. The word must be produced into substance. Reality. You must produce the results, the fruit of the seed, the word. Mormons don't do that. And so the feeling becomes the results, the fruit. And nobody can taste feelings. That's your own personal thing. Only you and you alone can have feelings. Other people can have feelings. It might be the same. There's no way to quantifiably know. Because it's an emotional response to an interpretation of an event or an action that took place. So yes, you are supposed to feel joy when you get the fruit and you partake of it, because it's real, tangible. There are just numerous examples in our physical world to illustrate this. And still, Mormons are deceived by the prophets to say that religion is separate than our physical reality. It's not the same. We can't use the physical world to explain the spiritual. Not saying anything against God or scriptures, but I have learned more about Mormonism and Christianity from you than every other source I have ever been exposed to in my life. And I do watch every video of yours to the end. Faith promoting. Thank you for your time. And good night.